This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Styles with a save. Trent for the second here. A classic counter-attack, and Gibbs White puts Nottingham Forest 2 ahead. Here's Wood. 1-0 Forest. Has made an even bigger difference there. Nottingham Forest have snatched the lead at Anfield.
Hello, welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent, here to bring you a fan preview as Forest head to the Emirates at the weekend after an international break and after a hectic time at the City Ground in Nottingham. I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Canton. Tom, how are you, first of all?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Obviously, hectic day as usual. It's never boring for Forest. I was hoping just to have this normal chat at 5 o'clock saying that how Nuno's going to line up against Arsenal, but now it might be a new man in their home, someone that Arsenal fans will probably rub their hands at now more so than if a Nuno team was coming to the Emirates in Ange Postecoglou. I mean, let's talk about Arsenal though first of all, because that's why you're here. How's the summer gone? Obviously, you've actually finally got a striker in. So are you happy with your summer business so far?
Yeah, I don't think Arsenal fans can really have any complaints. 8 signings they've brought in over the course of that. It's a very Nottingham Forest style summer, the amount of players we're bringing in. But yeah, I mean, close to £270 million has been spent. If you obviously include the fee that they will, to my understanding, pay for Pierre Hincapié next summer, that's well over 300 million in investment. So, Mikel Arteta has been backed. There's no question, about that, and it leaves him and Arsenal really with very little to hide, I think, going into this season and regarding expectations and silverware and feelings about that. So yeah, I think everyone is very happy, but I think there is also a level of reality and context to the summer, which is that if you've invested this big, it's because you're aiming to go and do something quite big as well in the season. And I think fans would expect that to come in the form of a trophy or two.
I was going to say, is this a season now where Arteta has got to deliver, because he's been backed for not even like 1, 2, 3 years? I think this is his 4th or 5th season now.
This will be his 6th full season.
That's mental to me.
Yeah.
Has he got to deliver something, and something pretty big, would you say?
It's always the discussion around Arteta, isn't it? I think when we were at the TalkSPORT event together, Andy Goldstein was very much on it. Like, if he has the same season as last season, is that it? Is he got? That's kind of always what the discussion is around with Arteta. And for me, I think that the whole Arteta tenure has really crystallized what I am as a fan of Arsenal, which is it's kind of grounded me in a way, in that I'm very privileged to be a fan of Arsenal because I support a club that goes into every single season now as a potential contender for every single trophy that is up for grabs, which is, for most fans, humbly including yourselves, you don't go into seasons, in that position. My dad's a Gillingham fan. It was my granddad's side where I got the Arsenal lineage from. He doesn't go into seasons thinking that. My mother-in-law's a West Ham fan. My missus is a Charlton fan. Like, they don't go into seasons like I do in a position where we are considered potential favourites for everything. And we're here as a result of what Arteta, has done for Arsenal. But 6 years in, if he in a sixth season doesn't pick up silverware, there's going to be serious questions, I think, about why they didn't lift silverware. And it's going to start to turn, I think, the conversation around, it's brilliant what Arteta has done taking Arsenal here, but is he the reason why they're not getting over the line? So I think that's kind of the question that will be asked at the end of the season if indeed he doesn't lift silverware. But I think while he keeps Arsenal in contention for all of them, and say we get to 2 more cup semi-finals and finish second and get further in the Champions League, maybe reach a final, it's very difficult to kind of contextualize getting rid of somebody if they're taking you kind of that far, that consistently.
Yeah. The big summer signing, it was Viktor Gyökeres by some distance, because Arsenal have always been hammered with they need a striker, even though they were scoring more and more goals without a recognised striker. I mean, playing Kai Havertz there, playing Jesus there when he was fit. What difference will Viktor Gyökeres make to you? Because I watched him for Coventry v Forest before he made the move to Sporting. It was the season before he scored 30-odd goals for Cov. When we got promoted, I was like, I think we should go get him. We went and got Taiwo Awoniyi. I was a little bit disappointed, and I was disappointed even though Gyökeres went to Sporting for 17 million euros or 20 million euros. I just thought, how have we missed out on this guy? But you guys spending upwards of 70 something million pounds or whatever it was for him. Are you pleased with that, or did you want to go for someone else?
Yeah, well, in the end, Arsenal only paid £55 million because they got 8 million. That was on top of that was in add-ons as well, so 63 including add-ons in total. It looks in post a very good deal, financially for Arsenal. Yeah, I think that it's a very kind of difficult one to analyse so early because he wasn't the first choice. Benjamin Šeško was the player that they initially wanted as a priority, but they weren't going to pay the money that Man United ended up paying Leipzig for him. He's a talented young player, but to spend close to 90 million euros on him would have been, I think, absolutely madness, from an Arsenal point of view, especially when you can get, say, Gyökeres for 55 million and keep your powder dry to go out and get other players like Eze and Nkapie, etc. later on in the window, which Arsenal eventually went on to do. He has had a trickier start, but I think, Arsenal's start this season has been tough. They've had to go to Old Trafford and Anfield in the first 3 games. In his first home game, he scored 2 goals. One was a penalty, of course, but his goal that he scored from open play was very good, driving into the box and firing low, which is, I think, something that we'll see this season. And I also think that from an Arsenal perspective, it's going to be around how they change around him. It's not all about him adapting to Arsenal. Arsenal have got to adapt to Gyökeres and create more opportunities that he thrives from, like running in behind and getting on the end of chances with cutbacks. He's not like a technically proficient player. He's not a brilliant kind of flared dribbler of the ball. He's very much a traditional number 9. Get the ball to him in the box, and when he gets a chance, he's very clinical in those areas. So Arsenal have got to find that, but they've been playing so long with Havertz and Jesus, who are players that are a lot more technical and like to drop into midfield and help with the build-up. He's not like that. So Arsenal need to change, and that doesn't happen overnight. So games, I think, like this weekend at home to, a new manager turnaround, which I'm sure we'll come on to against Forest, I think Arteta will be looking at as a potential game to again, help this integration of Gyökeres and hopefully get another goal or 2.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that Liverpool game. I watched it and I thought Arsenal were excellent until Szoboszlai scores an absolute worldy free kick. I thought Arsenal were really unfortunate not to come away with a result in that game.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a step in progress? Because I looked at it and I thought, well, Arsenal might get overrun in midfield, but I thought Zubimendi, Declan Rice were excellent. Marino was excellent. To say you didn't really have like that outlet in terms of a 10, like Eze obviously wasn't playing, Ødegaard's just coming back from injury. It's promising signs for Arsenal, I'd say. Looking at
it's so funny you say that because whenever I kind of speak to fans of clubs who aren't, the big 6 or whatever, fans that fans that I think have a much more grounded perspective on football, like yourself and others, they look at that performance, they go, Arsenal have gone to the champions, and in the first half, I thought, we were the better team, certainly, and won the midfield battle and created chances and should have done better with the moments that we had in Liverpool's box and didn't take advantage of those. And then in the second half, we weren't really proactive enough, I think, with our substitutions and allowed Liverpool back into the game. And it was still a moment of absolute magic from Szoboszlai to kind of separate the 2 teams. But the narrative afterwards has very much been of, Arteta was too conservative. I asked him after the game in the press conference, I said to him, do you think you were too conservative with your midfield selection? And he said no. Mikel Merino is a guy that arrives in the box really well. We saw that for Spain over the weekend because he got a hat trick, of course. And I don't think that I think he kind of in some ways it vindicated his selection of Merino, but it's more about his approach. I think it's how he approaches games, and I think fans would like to see him kind of take the handbrake off a little bit more in those games. But we've been battered by teams like Liverpool and City away from home for so many years. Arteta's come along, and that's the first time we've lost to a Big 6 team in any game in the league since April 2023. We've had an incredible record against the Big 6 side. So, yeah, it's really interesting how people came away from that game. I initially think it was an opportunity missed, but I think in reflection, Arsenal could have very easily come away with a point or even a victory in that game based on how they played. So I think it's very hard. I think the result is what has kind of overwhelmed the context of how Arsenal fans have taken that result. But actually, in the cold light of day, I think that they performed pretty well against, the champions with all of the wealth of talent that they have, with the likes of Saka missing, Havertz missing, Ødegaard not fit, Saliba going off in the first 2 minutes. They really were bereft of a lot of their key players, and I think they really held their own. So I think it bodes well more than is a concern.
Yeah, I've got to ask you about a certain young man at your football club? Because it absolutely astounds me that there's a lad who's gone into year 11 and he's already playing for Arsenal in Max Dowman. I mean, I watched his highlights for England against Spain. That left back must have like nightmares of him. Honestly, he's terrifying. I mean, what a player him and England have potentially got on their hands. And I watched Nwaneri come to the City ground, and I was amazed by him as well. Like, how much is he going to play this season, Dowman? Do you see? Because he's obviously getting minutes. He won the penalty against Leeds as well. Obviously having an impact. I'm terrified. I don't want to see this. Nico Williams might have to kill him. Like, honestly, might just put him in Rose
look, he is a very talented player. And before I went into journalism, I was a teacher, and when I think back to teaching 15-year-olds, and how early they are in life, they're so far from adulthood and so far from anything you think of in kind of any serious terms. They're just kids, and this guy's playing at the Emirates with zero fear, winning penalties against Premier League level senior players. He's going for the England youngest player to ever play for England's under-19s, wins a penalty against Spain in that game, who again have got an incredible wealth of talent as well, have Spain. So it is startling. But the thing is this isn't a surprise necessarily for Arsenal fans. He's obviously becoming more into the limelight for a lot of broader football fans from other clubs like yourselves, because he's just kind of burst onto the scene this season. But Arteta was talking about Max last season, when he was at the start of the season, when he was 14, which is even more insane. But he was at 14 years of age. He was training with the senior side. He was already playing for the under-18s, and he's kind of made that jump immediately from the under-18s to senior level, similar to what Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri did. They played very little under-21s football. They kind of jumped straight up to the senior level. And when we spoke to him last season, Arteta, about kind of the attacking midfield options and how they hadn't replaced Fabio Vieira, who left on loan, he brought up Max without even being prompted. And he hadn't yet even made an appearance for us. It's just there's been a real sense that this is obviously a matter of time until he was going to play for the senior team. And obviously at that age, there's a real vulnerability in terms of your future, because you can't sign a professional contract till you're 17. And then when you do sign that deal, that's only a short-term deal. You can't sign a professional deal until the next year, until you're 18, as Miles Lewis-Skelly has done this summer. So I think which is mad, that's still 3 whole years away. Until that happens, there's still some trepidation about, is he going to commit his future to Arsenal? Because there's no doubt clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona, and we already know Chelsea were trying to nab him, I think, earlier on in the summer, potentially looking at that. So yeah, he's a great talent, and he'll get plenty of games this season. I think we got Port Vale in the Cup in a couple of weeks. I imagine he'll probably start that game. And the Champions League rules are not the case where you have to be 16 before you can play. You can actually play. If you're under 16, you just need to be named on the A list. So we could even see him in Bilbao on Tuesday night. So yeah, it's mad.
Like, I looked at him, and he's like as tall as like maybe Ronaldo, Bale. He just glides past players. Yeah. I mean, from a neutral point of view, I mean, I liked Arsenal back in like 2000s, 2010s with Wenger and that. I just think he's from a different stratosphere. You don't really talk about English players like this. It's always like Brazilians, like Vinicius Junior, leaving at like for 60 million to Real Madrid. You never see him for a couple of years. Dowman, you're seeing him in front of you. I mean, what a plethora of talent Arsenal got. I mean, I sound so terrible because it's like I'm blowing smoke up your guys' arses, but it's just I can't help but being a little bit jealous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I'm terrified for it. But just want to get on to Forest. Obviously, a man you well know in North London in Ange Postecoglou with your rivals. You've probably seen more of Tottenham being an Arsenal fan than I would have done. But last season was very damning for him, and it was a big topic of debate on our podcast. He lost 22 league games last season. How do you see it from an Arsenal point of view, or just a football fan point of view?
I know how like media is these days, and you can easily make kind of statements that get brought up, months later down the line when you've been proven wrong. But I'll be bluntly honest with you. I think it's a horrendous appointment. Yeah. I remember doing the show on Tuesday morning when we do our morning shows, and we were talking a lot about kind of the Postecoglou achievement last season of the Europa League. The Europa League is a competition that Nottingham Forest and
Aston Villa
and Villa, should be getting to the final of. in my opinion, because of the I think Forest and Villa comfortably have the highest club value sides in the competition by quite some way. I think I was looking at when Palace obviously were playing it initially. I was looking at their club value, and Villa have like more than double that of the next highest non-English club in terms of club value on the transfer marks kind of club value side of things. And I imagine Forest's is even higher than Palace's was, and they were the next highest.
We're the highest.
Oh, is it higher than Villa's? Yeah,
we're higher than Villa's. Yeah,
it's the reality of Premier League football that they're in that position. In the Europa League last season, saw the team that finished 15th and 17th reach the final. In United and Spurs, and that is an indictment, I think, of that competition, the way it's changed. I don't mind the changes to the Champions League and this kind of league phase. I was kind of apprehensive about it, but I actually think that it does create kind of a really interesting scenario, and especially with how the higher up you finish now has an impact on your knockout phase draws and playing the second game kind of at home. And I think that had they have done it where the playoff teams still drop into the knockouts of the Europa League, I think that would have added, a lot more prestige, if you like, to the Europa League. And the fact that they don't now means that you've got kind of, but a glimpse with respect to them getting to the semi-finals of the Europa League last season. It's a competition that clubs like Tottenham, Man United, Forest, Villa, if they don't win it, it's almost seen as an underachievement because of the competition that's in it and the value of the players and the wealth of resources that Premier League clubs have. Same with the Conference League. Palace, I expect them to go and win that competition. They have, squad value compared to all the other teams will be vastly superior. So I think that Ange Postecoglou as an appointment, he could very well go and win the Europa League again. But in terms of employing a manager that lost 22 games last season and finished one place above relegation with a team that, yes, was damaged by injuries, no doubt about that. But Arsenal topped the injury table with 27, Spurs 22, and they finished second and got to 2 cup semi-finals in that campaign. So injuries can't be an excuse for losing 22 matches when you've still got a very decent squad and, still did business in the summer and in January. So for me, the biggest issue I have with Postecoglou is his loyalty to his system.
Yeah.
And the style of play that he deploys, Arsenal played him 4 times in 2 seasons. They won 3 and drew the other, which was the first time they faced each other. They drew 2-2. It was
I remember
weird
watching it.
game.
It was a crazy
game. Very weird game, that one. I think we were 2-1 up and scored a penalty, and Jorginho made a horrific mistake, and Son went through and scored to make it 2-2. But all the others, even though Arsenal only won by a single goal, they were by far the superior team. And kind of, again, it was little mistakes and errors that allowed Spurs to get their goals in those fixtures. But you'll see a lot of good attacking football. There's no doubt about the likes of Ola Aina and Nico Williams and the like will be very, offensive in how they operate if they're playing in the fullback areas. And it's just going to leave you so exposed defensively. I know that got 2 very good centre halves, Milenkovic and Murillo, and I think they're very good players. But do you have the number 6 to kind of to deal with a Postecoglou system? I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows? It's a real. Go on.
My motto has been the proof will be in the pudding with him. Because it's just whether he learned from them mistakes. We played Tottenham home and away, and we beat them. We beat them. Granted, they came to the City ground. I think Archie Gray was playing centre half, which I find absolutely as well. And I have some sympathy, but also you just can't be so stubborn. So I'm intrigued. But talking about the game at the weekend, obviously we've got a host of new signings that haven't really seen too much of the pitch. This was your team against Liverpool, and I know Saliba's injured.
Yeah.
Do you think Piero Hincapié comes straight in, or does Calafiori move and Lewis Skelly comes at left back? What do you think will change from this side that I've got up, Tom? So just for our listeners, so it's a 4-3-3: Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Marino, Zubimendi, Rice, Madueke, Gyökeres, and Martinelli in a 4-3-3. But I know you've got players coming back and everything.
Yeah, I think there will be changes. I don't think Hincapié will come straight in because obviously he plays midnight Wednesday morning in Ecuador, so he's not going to be flying home till late. I think on either Wednesday or even maybe Thursday. So he'll only probably have a day of training before he reintegrates. So I'd be surprised if he plays. Plus, Calafiori's probably won our Player of the Month award for August. He's been absolutely fantastic. Scored at Old Trafford and was absolutely shut down Salah at Anfield. Didn't give him a sniff there. So, yeah, I think it'll be the back four will be the same, other than Saliba, who will be changed out for Mosquera, who was really good at Anfield. Replaced him and again was very competent. 21-year-old, very exciting talent. Only cost 15 odd million quid. He was a steal. He only had a year left on his contract, so they really found a gem there. David Raya has been again pulled off some brilliant saves and moments and worthy of the last 2 seasons of the Golden Glove Award. Shared it with, of course, Matt Sells last season, but both of them had excellent campaigns. In the midfield, I think obviously Ødegaard, will replace Marino in the starting lineup. It will still be Zubi and Rice as kind of the base pivot, and then Ødegaard more freer, I hope, in kind of a 8/10 role. I think Eze will move to the left and replace Martinelli on that side. Madueke, of course, still starting because Saka we don't expect to be back until maybe the City game if we're lucky, but otherwise maybe slightly after that. And then, Gyökeres will continue up top. And because we haven't got Havertz, we don't have Jesus, we won't expect them back for a while. So he will continue and have to adapt. But they've got a lot of, talent off the bench now. The depth that they've got in this team is mad. Trossard, Martinelli, Dauman, Nwaneri are attacking options they can bring off the bench if they want to. They can bring Hincapié on now, as you've mentioned. Lewis Skelly, of course, is not in this team. Great talent there as well. And Ben White, we're hoping, is going to be back as well for this game. So he offers another option if we want to bring Timber off. But I think there could be changes because they've got that Athletic Club game on Tuesday night. So they'll be conscious of only having 2 days to prepare for that. And it's an early kickoff thing on Tuesday as well. And it's an early kickoff this one, of course, on Saturday. So, I think if there isn't too many changes to start 11, I think I've named maybe 2 changes to this. 3 with Mosquera coming in for Saliba. I think that you might see some changes early in the second half with that game on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, Forest team last time we played at the Emirates, so we got beat comfortably. We had a midfield of Ryan Yates and James Ward-Prowse, which is like about the mobility of a walking football sort of game. I'm not going to lie. And Chris Wood wasn't playing. I think Tyra Wunyi played. It's going to be a much changed Forest side, and we obviously don't know what to expect from Ange because I can't imagine him implementing kamikaze football within 3 days, to be honest. So how do Forest have to approach this? Because obviously we played at the City Ground last time out, and we drew 0-0 when Arsenal had about 20 corners, and I was fearing for my life because Declan Rice got some delivery on him, I have to say. Can Forest frustrate this Arsenal side, or is it kind of? Do you think it's just going to be a quite a foregone conclusion and an easy 3 points for Arsenal?
No, I don't. Forest are a good team, even without Nuno and a different change of manager. Plus, I think as a new manager coming in, with only less than a week, and the players are away on international duty in many cases, so some of them aren't even going to be around to work with the new coach unless they, get a couple of days training Thursday, Friday. So I think he'll want to very much come and set up to frustrate, and I think he'll want to kind of just lock it in and then gradually implement his strategy and his philosophy using those Europa League games as well to kind of use. So I expect him to be more defensive, like he was in many ways in the Europa League final. He was a lot more secure defensively in that game. Just it was kind of a one-off cup final. I think he might take this as a bit of a free hit. It's amazing how many times Arsenal have to come up against teams with new managers. It happens all the time. I think clubs get rid of them and think, oh, we got Arsenal next, so we'll just give them a free hit game and see what they can do. But I think to beat Arsenal at the Emirates, which I don't think Forest have done.
No, we haven't definitely not done. No.
I think I was looking at the last 5 meetings at the Emirates. I think it's 5 Arsenal wins. Obviously, at the City Ground, it's the complete opposite. I think Arsenal have only won 1 of the last 5 meetings at Forest. So, they've got a good record against Forest at the Emirates. I think that it probably still will lean in Arsenal's favour. I think if you can frustrate them to half-time, the nerves start to certainly build in the crowd. But if Arsenal get an early goal, it could be a floodgate situation. So I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see.
I'm hoping if Ange can sort of do that and keep us a bit more solid, it will give him a bit more food for thought in terms of actually going forward in the long term. But we'll see. We know he's a stubborn Aussie Greek man, but him and Marinakis are like chaos together because they are mates. So that it doesn't make it's not. I'm not surprised that the appointment happened anyway. Tom, I really appreciate your time. What's your score prediction for Saturday lunchtime kickoff?
I'm gonna go. Arsenal kept 2 clean sheets this season, and obviously the only reason they conceded against Liverpool was because of that Szoboszlai free kick.
Don't worry, we
So
won't score a free kick. No, not in a million.
You never know.
We've not scored one for about 5 seasons, I don't think. Honestly,
we had that before Rice popped 2 in the top corner against Real Madrid. It was kind of ridiculous, our record from free kick. I'll go 3-0, and that doesn't sound too humble, but I'll go 3-0 just because we are at home, and as I think potentially starting Odegaard back as well. There's a lot of talent, for Arsenal to utilise. So and Ange's first game, I think if they get an early goal, they'll be confident. So yeah. Otherwise, keep it 0-0, and you never know. So
yeah, of course, that's what that story of last season was. Tom, really appreciate you coming on. Where can people check out any of your content?
If you are in any way interested in Arsenal, of course, you can get over to the Gooner Talk YouTube channel, of course. And if you're unable to watch the game for whatever reason, I do the Arsenal coverage over at football.london, including our Matchday Live blog as well. So, we'll be writing post-match pieces and, of course, the morning line as well and reflecting on the game. So if you want to see the Arsenal perspective on things, just head over there.
Brill, thank you very much. And if you've enjoyed the pod, do drop a like and a subscribe. We'll see you for the next one from a Forest point of view preview. Until then, come on, you Reds.